At the age of 11, I was addicted to pornography. It lasted for about 2 years, from my 6th grade year of middle school to my 7th. But in my 8th grade year, when I gave my life to Jesus, I was miraculously delivered from that addiction, cold turkey. However, though I was delivered, those pornographic images were still ingrained in my mind. Those videos would replay over and over and over again, and it was as if I never had control of my own brain. And I understand that I am not the only person who has dealt with this matter. That's why in this episode, I want to share with you 4 keys to free your thoughts from those erotic images and finally regain control of your mind. Welcome to the Teenager's Guide, a place where I teach young men everything that I've learned about manhood in my life so far, so that they can become better men and not make the same mistakes I made as a teenager. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Jordan, and I'm the host of this show. In a 2023 study posted on the Library of Medicine website, from a pool of 1,000 adolescents, that is 10-year-olds to 19-year-olds, 66% of adolescent males and 39% of females have watched online pornography. And I'm sure that this percentage also includes addiction to pornography as well. Because as you and I know, those who have experience with watching it, it's very easy to grow addicted to this drug called pornography. It's like alcohol. It's like cocaine. I believe worse than these things, actually. And can you imagine a 10-year-old being addicted to this thing? It is utterly sickening. And I don't know about you, but I want to reduce these numbers drastically. And that's why in this episode, as someone who has walked in your shoes, I want to give you 4 points of how to no longer think about porn, no longer have pornographic images popping up in your brain. And if they do pop up, you know how to attack them, how to defeat them. So I don't want to waste your time any longer. But let's start off with point number 1, and that is stop watching porn. And I understand that may be a basic step in how to defeat sexual thoughts. It may even be a slap in the face, but it's an important key. Because you cannot quench a fire without first quenching the fuel of the fire. The thing that is fueling these images, these videos in your mind is the source of these images, and that is the website that you're watching these things on. The porn that you're actually watching is fueling these thoughts, so you have to cut it off. And not only must you cut off porn, but anything else that may be causing you to sin. It can be as innocent as social media. You can be laughing at a funny reel, but if that funny reel has something that in it that may be causing you to remember those images, to trigger your mind, you have to cut it off. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 30, Jesus speaks about if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. For it is better to enter into the kingdom of heaven with only one hand than to go to hell with both hands. Your hand is very important. You use it to work, you use it to play, you use it to cook, you use it to do your everyday activities. It's a very important part of the human body. But even if it's important to you, Jesus says if it is causing you to sin, you must cut it off. Of course, Jesus isn't literally saying to cut off your hand. It's a metaphor. It's an analogy. Sometimes our computers are our hands. Your phone could be your hand. Now, what I mean by this is that, we use our computers every day. We use our phones every day. You use your computer to do your homework assignments. You use your computers to watch YouTube. You use your computer to watch movies for entertainment purposes. But though it may be innocent, though it may seem beneficial to you, if it is causing you to sin, like your hand, you have to cut it off. Instead of using your personal computer, to decrease temptation, you can go to the library and use a public computer where other people are around and you are less likely to hop onto a pornographic website. Maybe instead of using your phone, you can throw that one in the trash and buy a flip phone. And look, I understand. You may be teased at school. But which one is more important, your freedom or what other people think? Because the very people that may be teasing you may be the very ones that are addicted to pornography and can't be free from that addiction. So you have to see which one is more important to you. Now going on to my second subpoint. Not only do you have to cut off the physical things, the tech, the computers, the phones, or any social media that may be causing you to sin, but you have to stay away, cut off people who may be causing you to sin. During high school, I didn't really have a lot of friends. As a matter of fact, I didn't have friends at all. At lunch, I would sit by myself and read a book or watch a YouTube video or do homework while eating. And I would do it by myself, and that was my usual routine every day for lunch. Now, I did have people. I did know people who I could have sat by at that time. But I refused to. Why, you may ask? Because every time I would sit by them, my mind would be triggered. My mind would return to those sexual thoughts. Because those people who I would be around, they made sexual jokes about everything. They could turn a refrigerator into a sexual joke. They could somehow turn something as basic and as innocent as a stuffed toy, as a plastic cup, and turn it into something sexual. They could turn anything into a sexual joke. And as you could imagine, that brought in some temptation into my mind, into my life. So I had to cut them off. I preferred sitting by myself than to be tempted to go into sin. You may be in the same situation where you are deciding whether I should sit by myself or hang with friends that are causing me to sin. And hey, I can kind of blame myself for sitting by myself at lunch because, well, I don't know, because I may have been actually the only like real Christian there at the time. You may be in the same situation. And it's up to you to decide which side is important, most important to you. Is it freedom, or is it pleasing people? Now, point number 1, stop watching porn and cut off anything else that may be causing you to sin. Point number 2, like Joseph, run away from places of temptation. This second point is very similar to the first point, and that makes it just a greater emphasis on this tactic of running away, of cutting off temptation. But specifically in this point 2, this has to deal with your location, your areas, the areas that you reside in, that you are in. Do you feel a certain urge when you walk into a particular room? Say you feel temptation when you brush your teeth in your bathroom or using the restroom in the bathroom. Say if you feel temptation when you're in your bedroom. I'm reminded of the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife recorded in Genesis 39, where it says when Potiphar's wife was attempting to seduce Joseph into sleeping with her, Joseph immediately ran from that place, ran from her, ran out of the room, just escaped from that place of temptation. You can probably understand where I'm going with this, but wherever you feel tempted, wherever place, wherever area, wherever room you may feel tempted, you have to escape from that area. For my first example, the bathroom. If you feel temptation in using a particular bathroom, you have to go to a different restroom, a different bathroom, and brush your teeth in there. If you feel temptation in your bedroom, when you go to sleep in your bed, maybe go and sleep in a different room in your house. Maybe sleep in your car if that's what it takes. If you have to take drastic measures, then drastic measures is what you're going to have to do. In addition to location, staying away from certain locations, you also have to stay away from getting into certain tempting situations. The late Billy Graham once made a promise, a pact between him and his associates, and they all accepted the promise as well, that they would never be alone with a woman. This was to avoid any possible scandals or accusations that may be placed upon them. But not only that, but it was also so that they would avoid any temptation to fall into sexual immorality, into fornication, into infidelity. You may be in a dating situation. You may be dating a young lady. And of course, you all are going out on dates to get to know each other. But make sure that when you're going out on these dates, that these dates are always in a public area. That these dates never find themselves in a car where it's only you and her and it's dark and you're in a empty parking lot. What temptation do you think that might bring on you? I created this phrase. It's not a perfect rhyme, but it does rhyme a little bit, and it says, If you feel aroused, shut it down. If you feel aroused, shut it down. Going back to how I was saying with even if it's innocent, you have to cut it off. But if you and your girlfriend holding hands, if that causes your thing to stick up, if your body begins to prepare for sex in that moment when you two are doing that, as innocent and as pure and as cute as that is, you have to set up boundaries and say, hey, I don't really feel comfortable with doing that right now. Or if she touches you, if she touches your shoulder and it's just an innocent touch on the shoulder or rubbing your shoulder or something, if that causes your body to prepare for sex, you need to set up boundaries and cut that off for right now until you two are married. If she's a godly woman, if she's a queen, she's going to respect your boundaries as she would want you to respect her and her boundaries. So if you feel aroused, shut it down. Now, you may be asking, what if I'm in a situation, maybe I'm in class or something, and I can't flee from the room, or I can't escape from this area right now? That leads me to my third point, and that is go into praise and worship. The Bible says in James chapter 4, verse 7, resist the enemy and he shall flee. See, darkness cannot stay where light is. And when you pray, when you go into praise, when you go into worship, you are entering into the presence of God, where darkness cannot stay. Not only do I believe that this is effective in casting out sexual thoughts, but it's also effective because you're staying active. You're lifting your hands, you're jumping around, you're praising God, you're dancing before him. The fact that you're being active distracts your mind from those thoughts. And that leads me to my fourth point, and that is to stay active. Some say that if you are feeling those urges, if you begin to get those thoughts, to open up God's word. Now, if that's effective for you, that's effective for you. But in my experience, sometimes when I do that, my mind begins to drift and opens up the door for those thoughts to enter into my mind. Staying active when you're exercising, when you're jumping around, when you're doing some sort of cardio, when you're dancing, it takes your mind off of those thoughts and puts your mind on something else. In addition to this, exercising reduces urges for lust. It reduces urges for sex, and it also reduces how your thing erects, because your blood is flowing and your heart is pumping. and you're putting your energy to something else. In addition to staying active distracts your mind and reduces those urges, being productive towards a goal, towards your future, towards your dreams, towards your visions, it reminds you of how terrible it is, how destructive it is to think lustfully, to think those thoughts. Because you remind yourself of where you're going in the future. You remind yourself of the beautiful, wonderful, intelligent, godly wife that you're going to marry someday. It reminds you of the wonderful children that you're going to have one day. And you and I know that in order to be a godly leader for them, in order to love your wife with all you have, in order to love your children, you cannot be addicted to pornography. You cannot be having these thoughts. How can you be faithful to one woman when you're thinking about another woman? How can you love her effectively when you're having these fantasies about another woman? You can't. How would your children think? What would your children think of their father if they knew that all he thinks about is what he thinks about in his head? I'm not going to go in detail into that. You cannot be a godly leader if you are being conquered by sexual immorality. Your mind has to be clear. To better emphasize this key of staying active, I can talk about the story of David and Bathsheba, recorded in 2 Samuel chapter 11. It says in the beginning that at the time when kings went off to war, at a time when kings should be doing things, kings should be active, David was at home. It says in the evening he got up from his bed and began to walk about his balcony. In my assumption, probably trying to find something to do. He was bored. And at that moment when he was bored, at that moment when he didn't have anything to do, he saw Bathsheba. His eyes began to wander, and he began to lust. In that moment of boredom, he fell into sin. In that moment of being idle, he fell into lust. Don't be a fool. Learn from the past. Learn from what others have done before you. And don't make the same mistakes. That's why I'm making this podcast, to teach you all lessons that I learned in my life, so that you won't make the same mistakes, so that you can be wiser. So those are my points for today. My points for this episode. Point number 1. Defeating sexual thoughts first starts with quitting porn and anything else that may be causing you to sin. Point number 2, secondly, you must run away from any location, any group of people, any situation that may cause you to sin. Number 3, you should go into praise and worship when you cannot flee, when you cannot leave that area. And I believe even after you have flee that area, you should go into praise and worship. Just as greater reinforcement. And number 4, staying active is an awesome way to keep your mind void of sinful thoughts, and to remind yourself of why you want to overcome these things, why you want to be free and regain control of your mind. I'm so grateful that God has given me this opportunity to share these keys with you. This has really been helpful to you. I would ask you to share this with anyone that may need this advice as well. And you can shoot me an email at theteenagersguide@outlook.com, theteenagersguide@outlook.com, to share your experience of what you thought about this episode. You could also leave a comment down below. With all that being said, this is the Teenager's Guide, and this is your host, Jordan, signing out. Thank you.